Hey everyone, it's Keith with another episode of our CIO Wisdom Share. And joining me today is Shawn Ellis. So Shawn, welcome. It's nice to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You introduced something new like digital transformation. Does it fall within the old fundamentals, or is achieving operational excellence? Do you need a new set of fundamentals, a new set of skills, a new way of thinking?
I think it stands on top of it. If and I'm sure all of us have met different CIOs that are really good at being visionaries and communicating vision, getting people excited, but they can't put in place the processes and mentor the people to create that do everything right operational excellence. And that's, they don't succeed because they can't maintain the respect while their systems are going down and while their projects are all late. And then we have the other type that they just can't communicate very well and don't excite people, don't bring them on board with something new or convince to do a good job at sales, internally. And but they run everything perfectly. And so I always kind of run into this when I'm interviewing for a position, and it's like, if they had the other kind, they want to see more vision and more like, what are we going to do to get this going? And then if they had the really outgoing kind that was good at articulating vision, well, it's chaos and everything's blowing up all the time and we can't see anything, get anything delivered. So they want to hear something solid, and more calm. So I shoot the middle on that, and obviously this is contextual. If we are having a discussion about fun things that we're going to do next year, then we need to be visionary. And if we having a discussion about issues that we're having and how we need to get better, then we need to be calmer and more stabilizing. So you have to kind of be able to wear both hats. And if you can't, know that, be self-aware enough to have a really good second that can do the other that you're not so good at.
Is that the hardest part?
Self-awareness of life, yes.
Well,
CIO position.
Now you're going deep, but no, just when you're writing your strategic plan, I mean, keeping that balance between being visionary enough but not being too tactical, hitting that right balance so that you can achieve growth in the right direction without getting stuck up in the esoteric.
Sure. So you define some great strategic goals, but you've got some really big technical debt to repay, and that's going to be huge projects that consume a lot of resources. It doesn't matter if they're maintenance or they don't go towards a strategic goal of the company, then they go unsung in terms of the strategic plan. And I'm sorry, that's just a reality of our job, most jobs. So a lot of our work goes unsung. And 10% of it, people really know about and you might get credit for, and that's okay. I think growing up through the ranks, I've always kind of felt the angst of, well, why isn't my thing up there? And I should have my thing up there. And then everybody's trying to get their thing up there. And, you just have to make some choices. And for me, those choices are whatever the business has defined as those top, goals, those top 1 to 3, shouldn't be a lot, things that contribute to that in one step, most directly. And if there's nothing on your list that does, that's okay. That means you're chopping wood and carrying water that year. And, next year you might get to a position where you're more mature and you have capacity to think about, new things that can really contribute to those things. If you find yourself 5 years and you still haven't, well, you might need to think about doing things a little differently, I would think.
Yeah. And when you've done this well, and when you haven't done it well, did you notice an impact on the relationships with the C-suite that you were working with?
Sure. Yeah. And I would say I do it well and not do it well on a weekly basis. Everybody makes mistakes, including CIOs. I think valuing the relationships above everything else is an important perspective to intentionally maintain, especially when you come from technology training, technology background, and you think everything has a technical solution. It doesn't. I mean, the technical solution cannot trump a relationship. So, you have to make that choice right, day by day basis. And sometimes that means the technology suffers. So a lot of CIOs come in and they try to plan out their ideal infrastructure or their ideal architecture for applications, or, get the technology all arranged. And that's where their focus and energy goes, is towards that. And certainly it did for me early in my career and maybe at the CTO level and things like that. But now it's not so. Now I try to get the relationships, trust and respect levels where I want them to be. It's very high. They need to be the highest they can be. I mean, We control all the sensitive data. We control everybody's communications. We have to have a tremendous amount of trust and respect with everyone in the company. And if we don't, and who's going to even want to send an email that comes through our stuff? It's paralyzing. So that's where I focus now. That doesn't mean I don't care about the infrastructure or the architecture, but I am more realistic that that's something maybe I'll try to influence more over the years. And, when I leave it, it'll be better than I found it, more than let's transform all this tomorrow, swap it all out with Microsoft stuff and all will be great, or Oracle stuff or whatever it is you're into. And honestly, that's not where it's at. I think you can run most platforms well. There are some, the few that are just absolute lemons. That's where you have some real talk with vendors and management and get that addressed. But as far as sweeping transformation of architecture, enterprise architecture or systems architecture, I think moving the focus away from like trying to get that straightened out year one and towards trying to get your relationship straightened out and choosing the things to do that will build trust and respect is a big thinking transformation that I had to go through. So, for example, we've all had that project, doesn't make sense. It's not going to add any value. It's just something that there's a stare down. And essentially the subtext is, we don't think you can do anything. And we just like to see you do something and deliver it on time, and this is the thing that we're picking. And if you don't do it or can't do it or argue against it, we're right, you are useless. And that's the subtext under it. And being able to see that for what it is and say, okay, guys, the CEO really has lost a lot of trust for IT, and we need to do this project, not because it is useful and not because it is the best use of resources. And none of that. We need to do it to prove that we can do a project on time and prove to him that we can do what we're asked to do and do it on time. And sometimes that's really all it's about. And so choosing to do those things that build that trust and respect over the things that are the right thing to do, and if you've ever read a book, Leading Geeks, there's a huge sense of justice and the right thing to do. And, they get offended by misuse of things or people, using relationships to do things instead of doing the right thing always. So yeah, I guess that moves the target of what the right thing is. And then we can choose the right thing, because we know at the end of that project, the CEO will have a lot more trust for us and will listen to us more when we say, hey, this might not be the best thing to do.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I hadn't heard that before. So thank you for sharing that. So I want to be respectful of your time, and you've been very generous with us so far. So thank you very much for sharing that. We greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. Good talking to you.
Hope you heard a few things that triggered some new thinking for you. We do these conversations on IT topics weekly, so please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get updates on new content, as well as you can post comments and, more importantly, suggest topics that you'd like us to address. You can see that we have some pretty amazing resources, so please let us know how we can help you on your upcoming digital transformation and enterprise IT projects. Thanks very much. Until next time.